Thank you, Mr. Chair. I associate myself with remarks of my colleagues, and obviously I strongly support this amendment. It's very simple. We will not be using funds to deport or detain U.S. citizens. And as others have said before me, this should be something that everyone can get behind, because as my colleague from California said, what do you stand for? What do you stand for? What are you made of? If not this, then what? When I first ran for office to serve in Congress, I was asked, what do I think is the biggest threat facing us in the world? And I was unequivocal, and it was immediate. I said, the rise of authoritarianism around the globe. Democracies do not fail overnight. It happens little by little as rights are eroded, as norms are upended. As my colleague from Georgia said, when Americans start spying on each other and reporting people because you suspect they may not be a citizen. That's how it starts. And as my colleague who introduced this amendment has said, my colleague from the state of Washington has said, it's not as if this is theoretical. This is not, as we often say in legislative branches, oh, this is a solution in search of a problem. That's not where we are. It's actually happening. It's happening to American citizens. And so this should be the simplest vote that we take all year, that we will not use funds and weaponize our government against citizens and create a reign of terror and fear. So again, what is it that we stand for? What are we doing here if not to support and uphold the Constitution? And others have talked about Senator Murkowski, and I think many of us were hoping that when she finally said out loud what many of us have heard from our colleagues, that they'll say behind closed doors that they are afraid, that they do not want to be targeted. They do not want their families to be targeted. They do not want the president tweeting about them. They do not want Elon Musk tweeting about them. They do not want people to show up at their doors. They're not just afraid of losing an election. They will tell you they are keeping their heads down so that nobody will notice. Well, here's the deal. This isn't going to go away. It isn't just going to fade away. If we don't stand up for the things that make us Americans, if we don't stand up for due process, if we don't stand up for all of the ideals that we hold so dear, then we mean nothing. This country means nothing. We are only as good as the ideals that we uphold. And so again, what is it that you stand for? This is the simplest thing, that we will not weaponize our government and use funds to detain or deport American citizens. Now, as somebody whose family was impacted directly by the Holocaust, I can tell you that is why I'm so animated today. That is why I am so anxious and so angry about this. Because I know what happens. Because it happened to my own family. That neighbors ratted my family out. That's how it starts when we don't stand up for basic human dignity and the rights that we are afforded in this country. I yield back.
Generally